And so far so good. Usually a little bit of a delay before our viewers can actually see what we're up to, but it looks like we got a stable connection. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Mac McCullough, and this is Stories at Sundown, a project of Willard Library. And I am absolutely delighted, number one, to be outside in this beautiful, beautiful weather, beautiful spring evening next to the fire. And I'm doubly delighted to have as my guest this evening Samuel Gray.
Hello, hello.
Sam is, if you know your way around Battle Creek, you see Sam Gray. He's done a lot of things, been involved in a lot. He's past president of the NAACP, but a current officer. He's involved in the planning, and we were just talking about the Juneteenth celebration, and he's on that committee.
Yeah.
He works with the Heritage Quiz Bowl, and as I say, and he is half of what I call one of Battle Creek's premier power couples, the Grays, husband to Lynn Ward Gray, who was until very recently a long-serving city commissioner, and also, actually, you see them in pairs all the time. So
most times that's how I got involved in community service because of Lynn.
Really?
Yeah, actually. You remember when PDAs were out? And
yeah, I do.
We would sync up our PDAs, and so I'd see her schedule, she would see mine, and so we got on the. It was young professionals with the Urban League is how I came on board because she was connected with that, and so that's where it kind of started for me.
Yeah, well, she's checking in, saying hi right now.
Hi.
So yeah, everybody, if you got comments, please chime in. I'll try to keep up with you. So this is called Stories at Sundown, Sam, and I was thinking about, tell me your story. I mean, if you had to tell your story in a minute, you grew up here, right?
I was born and raised in Battle Creek, Michigan, and graduate of Battle Creek Central in '78, and had actually joined the Navy when I was in the 11th grade in my summer of the 11th grade, and hey, John Tidd, a co-worker, and so that was called the delayed entry program.
Yeah.
And as soon as I graduated from high school, I was in the service.
Wow.
Headed off to boot camp.
Wow. So what motivated you to think of the service?
Yeah. So basically every single uncle that I have on my mom and dad's side were in the service. And the one that is the closest to me, my uncle George Gray, he was a Navy veteran, and he was one I really looked up to and mentored us as kids. Come from a divorced family, so he was that uncle dad. That's what I call him, uncle dad. And so he was that person. That was the motivation behind joining the Navy. And yeah, the plane. It was in the aviation community too. So so joined the Navy, and 21 years later, it didn't take long for me to decide I would make a career out of it because I really enjoyed what I did. And as a young kid coming out of my hometown and getting shore duty, that helped a whole lot. My first tour of duty was shore duty. So I spent my first 4 years shore duty in San Diego.
Wow. And you were a Desert Storm veteran, is that correct?
And a Desert Storm veteran. So when the conflict happened with Kuwait, we were one of the first carriers over there. I was on the USS Ranger. So when they were going through what they call Desert Shield, that was kind of like the buildup. And then the storm happened February 1st. Another friend of mine, Malcolm.
Yeah.
And so the Desert Storm happened, and to operate at I've been out to sea before, but I've never operated at that tempo before. And it was quite a real high tempo
Huh.
to operate when we're talking about flight operations and getting your aircraft and making sure your aircraft are ready to fly off the we call pointy end of the ship.
Yeah.
And so the tempo was real high. It's like 24-hour flight ops and things like that.
Huh.
So I never, like I said, never operated at that tempo before. So it was quite intense.
I'll bet. And what exactly was your job?
So my job was a aviation instructor mechanic. That was my rating. But during the desert storm, I was a flight deck chief. So we would get our aircraft ready to fly off the ship and just basically keep them ready.
Uh-huh.
So you would make sure all your crew and your uh, all of your men and women were safe. So
And did you when you were deployed, when you were on those carriers, were you there a long time?
we would do like I said, here's another good thing that my first at sea period, we probably spent only 55 days at sea.
Okay.
So that's in a 6 month time,
Uh-huh.
55 days at sea. That's a cruise, all right. That's like being on your luxury cruise and going somewhere. But obviously, we had to work and all that kind of stuff. But we were in a bunch of port visits during those 55 days. I mean, during that 6 month period, um, we stopped in a lot of ports.
Uh-huh.
So
I imagine in in that kind of atmosphere and that tempo, you get to be a really tight unit, right?
oh yeah, we all have to look out for each other.
Yeah.
So, you have planes flying all over the place. You have jet blasts, you have propellers, you have helicopter spinning around, rotors spinning around. So you really have to keep your head on a swivel and
Yeah.
look out after each other. And also, when you go ashore, folks like to party and that kind of stuff. So you're really looking out after each other there too. You want to bring everybody back in one piece. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to draw a connected dot here. I mean, I want to talk to you a little bit about what being a community activist means to you. But before we do that, is there a connection between your life in the service and why you came back to Battle Creek and do the things that you do?
Yeah. So a life of service. Um, I didn't think that, as far as when I signed up to go into the service,
Yeah.
but I have a real strong appreciation why I do a lot of things that revolve around veteran advocacy. I'm the chair of the Calhoun County Veterans Affairs. I'm a part of a life member of American Legion Post 257. Um, I did a lot of things on the advisory committee for the Fort Custer advisory committee. So things like that, anything veterans, I was basically a part of. So that life of service, um, prior to going into the service, we didn't really connect as a family to doing community service. But as a child growing up, I mean, it was always, if you were gonna raise monies or anything like that, you rake leaves in the fall, you shovel snow in the winter, and you mow grass. And so that was our way of really connecting with your
Sure.
neighbors and that kind of stuff. And I
Yeah.
think our neighborhood was really close knit,
Yeah.
neighborhood and that, but it didn't but the life of service didn't happen for me until I came home.
Okay.
Um, Now, however, when I was in the military, we would do things in the military, like when you pull into the Philippines, we would do these projects in the Philippines where you would dig wells, you would build houses and that kind of stuff, just as a way to help the the natives out, or the
Sure.
folks in that community. So we got a chance to do all of those kinds of things. But coming back here, it just seemed uh, natural for me, especially when I think about, a quote, that is that service is the rent that you pay to occupy space. And so, always want to do my part, in the community, to serve the community. And so for me, it was a natural fit as far as service is concerned. And
Yeah.
and it becomes ministry for me too, because even Jesus said, I didn't come here to serve, or I didn't come here to be served, but to serve.
Right.
So with my faith and that, so it's all about uh, all of what I do is about ministry
Yeah.
and serving.
I was smiling when you quoted before because you always come up with quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're always
Yeah.
and always like really poignant. But one time I was involved in a training workshop with you, and we were sharing things about ourselves that others may not know that define you, and you said veteran. Um, I think other folks were using a lot of other things, but you said veteran, and I wanted to ask you here on live internet broadcast, what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, as a veteran, that I feel like um, that I did my part to serve my country,
Uh-huh.
and it's something that I'm very, very proud of, to be a veteran of the Navy. And like I said, it didn't take long for me um, to realize that I was going to make the Navy a career. And some people say lifer, you're a lifer. Some people negative connotation, but you know, no, it was a career for me. And like I said, it didn't take long for me to to see that was going to be a career for me, because I really loved what I was doing
Yeah.
in the Navy, working on airplanes, uh, and that life of service in that way. So having gone through it, and now I'm on this side, to be a veteran of the Navy means everything. It was my life. It is who I am. So
Yeah. And then when you worked at the Federal Center, you weren't active, right? You were out. Am I?
no, I, I was when I worked at the Federal Center, we worked for as a
Okay.
contractor for
Right.
Department of Homeland Security. So it gave me that also, that I'm still serving my country because
Yeah.
of what our mission was as telecommunicators with Department of Homeland Security. And when they stood it up, we all know the reason um, why Department of Homeland Security stood up in the first place, because of 9/11, the events of 9/11. And so yeah,
Got it.
he's what rate? Aviation structural mechanic.
That's actually a elementary school friend of mine. He moved away when we were probably teenagers, but he watches me. I got a following too, Sam. So I wanted to ask you, but I think we should tell folks, and probably a lot of the folks watching this already know, but we had scheduled this, I think, back in February and March, and you had a cancer scare, right?
Yes, I did. So in September, probably like I think it was the 25th of September, I was headed to go get an elective surgery. And prior to, um, well, actually, I was all prepped for the surgery, and um, while I was knocked out, or put under, the doctors, before they actually make this cut, they go inside you and they look around. So they saw these nodules on my liver, and they were biopsied, and they came back positive, or malignant, or
Mm-hmm.
stage 4 uh,
Wow.
non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So in October, um, So we did some more tests and PET scans and all that kind of stuff. And so I spoke with some doctors in Ann Arbor, and they came up with a treatment plan that I would have chemotherapy. And so for the next until from October until February 2nd, I was having chemotherapy. And my last PET scan, March 2nd, um, came up. Now, praise God for this, that it came up that I was in remission. So I don't have any spots on my liver anymore. And so thank God for that, for all the prayers, the community outreach and love that they showed me and my wife as I went through this journey. Um, so stage 4, yes, it was scary. I know when I first heard it, actually, when the doctors called me, I was thinking still that this is going to be benign. Everything was just going to go away, and all that. But my sister and my mom and I were out to dinner, and then I got a call from my doctor saying that it was positive for stage 4 non-Hodgkin. Well, she didn't say stage 4 at that time, but she says you have lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and and then I was like, oh man, my life is going to change.
Yeah.
I kind of felt, actually, I mean, like deep down, I kind of like, dang, why now, and but so I sat there on the bench outside Bob Evans in Kalamazoo and told my mom, and then my sister came out and I told her, and so yeah, then shared it all with my family and friends and things, and so. But I think through the whole thing, I really maintained a positive attitude through it all, and trusting God that I was going to be delivered from this, and my life would go on.
And it was certainly, whenever we communicated, that really came through. I mean, you really stayed positive, but you don't go through experience like that without changing, right? I mean, how do you feel now? How do you feel now? One, just how do you feel physically? You feel great, and what did the experience teach you?
Well, I feel like myself now. I feel like I went out and did yard work yesterday, and I felt good about it. And some things that I was trying to do while I was going through it, just like going upstairs, it was really a strain, like really a strain on my heart while I was going through chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And now I feel, like I said, I feel like myself. And what did I learn? That God is faithful, and that I just, um, love God and trust God, and it just really increased my faith.
Yeah.
And so that's what it did for me, you know. So
Good.
you make some changes as far as your physical, health is concerned, and um, so just make those changes. So,
Right.
But other than that, I mean, I feel, like I said, I feel like myself, and that I can go out and do all of the things that I used to do, and that's a good feeling
Yeah.
because when I was having chemotherapy, it really took a toll on me.
Sure. Yeah.
And I didn't really think it would, because the first treatment plan, I was like feeling like myself and all this kind of stuff. And I was out sneaking, doing, some yard work and like small things, and then Lynn attended one of my chemo sessions, and my doctor said he cannot do yard work anymore. You know, and it was during the busy season too. So this was fall,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
leaves were all over the place, and I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's a form of exercise, for me to get out and do that kind of yard work.
Yeah. Well, not the same thing at all. But when I had COVID, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go running in a couple of days. This is nothing. you know,
Yeah.
and it kind of laid me low for just a couple of weeks. Again, not the same thing at all, but that's part of who you are. It gives you that drive, right? You're going to work through
Right.
anything,
Yeah.
right?
I remember this song that it was like a Brooklyn Tabernacle song that says, "I never lost my hope. I never lost my joy. I never lost my praise is what I never lost. And that's most of all, just praising God, Amen, for all that He got me through this. And so just that hope was still there. My joy was still there. I don't recall ever really getting down or anything like that. My faith was still there. And I just, like I said, praise God for everything that He's done.
Yeah. So I wanted, when I asked you to come on here, I thought, okay, so what am I going to talk to Sam about? I mean, we always talk all the time, but I looked up your LinkedIn profile and I saw you list yourself as a community activist, and we talked about this the other day. I
Hmm.
mean, what does that mean to you? And actually, given what you've just been through, maybe it's changed, but
No, it hasn't changed at all. um, uh, to when you see something as a community member that you see that's wrong, you want to be the one to be the activist to to bring about the change.
yeah,
And I always say, that we are the ones we've been waiting for. And so if not now, when? And if not you, who? And so um, not that I'm trying to be the savior or anything like that, but I think that we have a responsibility to speak up, when things are not right. And so that's where the whole community activist. I became a life member of the NAACP, so that's a whole, you know, another thing. Not a whole nother thing, but it is about speaking up for those that are released, the lost, and the left out. That we have to speak up.
yeah. I want to read to you a quote that you sent me a few months ago. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter.
Hmm.
In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Yeah,
Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King. Exactly. Our lives begin to end. It's a plaque I have in my living room, and I look at it. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And like I said, if we're not the ones speaking up, you know, and one thing when I was the chair for our neighborhood planning council, I said it's the squeaky wheel, that's going to get, lubricated. So we have to keep talking. We have to keep squeaking. We have to keep, bringing up things because um, no one will listen. You know,
Yeah,
we have to make people listen and pay attention. So we have to, keep talking.
yeah. Yeah. Actually, you when you ran for office, I forget what year that was, but you had a quote in the paper. I've watched our community, and people in our community seem to be frozen in indifference.
Mhm.
Is that something you still see?
I see that there are some people that are indifferent, that people have just become numb to
Yeah,
things that are going on in the community. But there is this remnant of people. Like I was at a meeting on this Saturday with Chris McCoy, and have always really connected with Chris with New Level Sports and the things that they're doing there because it's something that I believe in. You
yeah,
know that and so just talking about some ways we can improve, the neighborhood, the ways we can improve the lives and impact the lives of not only just young folks, but have people to give people hope again, um, that neighborhood this NPC can turn around and be a part of the solution, that we're looking for. And and as a neighborhood planning council chair, our motto was to have a safe, family friendly place where everybody wants to live. And that's something that I don't think that's just, just some words. I actually believe in that, and that we can turn, our area around, and make it one of those areas where people want to come, where people want to put businesses, where people want to live, work, and play. And so
Yeah.
that's what I believe.
Yeah. With the events of the past year, the pandemic, but then of course the killing of George Floyd. Um, there's just been a lot more attention. It seems like to me, and man, you can push back on that. Are we in a moment on how we reconcile our past, our with race in our country? And do you feel like we're in a special moment right now where we can achieve a lot?
I feel like this is the truth. Sometimes I feel like, we're taking steps back at times.
Yeah,
Um, but then also I feel like, we've taken steps, to just keeping it in people's heads, keeping it in their consciousness, the issues about race in the community and that kind of thing. Um, that a lot of systems are in place that um, kind of hold people back.
yeah,
Um, so I think as long as we are able to keep it in their consciousness, um, then I just really feel that once their minds change, then their hearts will change. Or you
yeah,
could say it backwards, that once their hearts change, then their minds will change. And that, people will actually start thinking about things before, how you say, think before you talk, or think about things before, if you see an injustice somewhere, you will address it. It doesn't have to just be a black person or a person of color, black, brown, to say something. Then, um, those lives will matter,
yeah,
and
yeah.
what you say and what you see matters. So maybe you'll speak up, and say something about it.
I wanted to raise this. I just remember it so clearly. I can remember where you were standing, where we were standing, when you told me that you approach racism with love. I can't remember what we were talking about at the time, but I just remember that so clearly because it struck me. So tell me about that.
Yeah, that approach racism as love. I just really believe this is a scripture in the Bible that talks about, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. And I just believe that love provides for us that capacity, for forgiveness. All right, and I think that when we strive to love like that without conditions and that kind of stuff, because I know me, and prior to my involvement with the CDI, we, I think, I don't know if we went to White Men and Allies together,
Yeah, I
but
think we did. I think that's where I heard you talk about, or we
yeah.
were raised veteran.
And
Yeah,
so I just, from my own learning and how stereotypes and prejudice impacted me, you know, and so I could walk away and just say, hey, they just, being white people. White people just gonna be white people, They're never gonna see, how I'm feeling. They're never gonna walk in my shoes, and they're just gonna always be that way. But I think that, we always have to maintain an attitude of forgiveness, and that we all have the capacity, to love. Because when Martin Luther King talks about the only thing that can drive out hate is love, so the only thing that can drive out darkness is light. So the more knowledge we have, the more, I feel like the love that we have, in our hearts, then, you know, I can give this person the benefit of the doubt. I can, those opportunities that come up, like I had this young man that worked for me. He used the term in our world in telecommunications. you're like descriptive. So you use a term, black male, white male. Uh, he was 6 foot tall. He was wearing a hat, or dark complexion, wearing a green shirt, that kind of
Right.
stuff. So he said colored people. So he said, I have a colored male walking down the street, black hat, green shirt. And so it just raised something in me, because it was like, colored people. Why did this guy is only 21 years old, and why did he use colored? You know, and we live in the 21st century, and this guy is 21 years old using the word colored. And so I just asked him where he was from. He told me. And I said, so that's how you guys address, people of color in your town or whatever? He said, yeah, you know. And so I use that as a teachable moment to say, instead of getting upset or whatever, because on my birth certificate it says colored male, you know,
Yeah.
and but that's how they taught back in '59,
Right.
when I was born. And so it just kind of struck me as odd. Here we are in the 20, well, actually it was the 20th century then, and he used that term. So I said, well, what color was he? Was he purple? Was he blue? Was he red? And so I just shared with them that that's not something that the kind of language that we use nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Right.
we. But then some people will never change. Some people, that's how they were raised, and so
Well, you do what you can. I mean,
you.
it occurs to me that when you're confronted by racism, you confront it with love, your words, but you also confront it with curiosity. I
Yeah,
mean, the example you just gave. I mean, where did that come from?
yeah,
Instead of being instantly offended, not that you weren't offended, but you didn't get upset.
hmm,
I mean, listening,
yeah,
listen, because people know what they know, and sometimes if they know something else, they might change, right?
right, yeah, yeah. A friend of mine went out. Another Navy guy went out to sea, and he's married. He was asking me at the time. This is when I was in the club life, all right, before I met Lynn. And we went out, and this person uh, got bumped in while they were on the dance floor, and they used the N word. This was a white person.
Yeah.
Said, if that N word, bumps into me again, I'm kicking their butt or whatever. And so they got bumped into again, and she said it again. And I was like, whoa. So I took her out of the club and was like, why are you using that language, whatever. And so we went out to eat afterwards, and I was asking her where she was from again, the curiosity, but wanting to know, because, where are you from? She told me, and it was someplace up the road here. And I said, is that how they, you know, is that how they talk in your hometown? And she was like, yeah. I said, well, Albert, one, I would appreciate it if you not use that word around me, N word, and saying it like she was saying it, Um, it didn't change my friendship I have with her husband or a friendship with her, but it would just be appreciative if she didn't communicate like that.
And how did she respond?
She responded in the affirmative, that, yeah, hey, I'm sorry I offended you.
Yeah.
And, I'll do my best not to, you know, say that word,
Yeah.
so, because it is offensive, to me. And to some people, it would really be offensive.
Sure.
They would start fighting. And one thing, the last thing I wanted to do in the club that night was get in a fight with somebody, trying to defend her, because, you know, and then having to explain to her husband, hey, your wife and I got in a fight, you know. But yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what we can look forward to this year. What's tonight? You were on the Juneteenth Planning Committee meeting.
Yeah, I really want Juneteenth to happen because I missed it last year. Or we all missed it last year, and it's one of the signature events that I like being a part of. The other one is Quiz Bowl. I really like um, putting on the Quiz Bowl with the NAACP
Yeah,
and pulling all the schools together. We were really successful in doing that. So we have to have a conversation now about if we're going to do Quiz Bowl or not. So I have to get that committee back together. And I'm just looking to um, continue to do things that I do around my church because church is different now.
yeah,
It's really forced us out of the four walls of the church, and that is for sure. So a lot of our stuff is broadcasted live, and or we're getting ready to go live, but it's all like um, pre-recorded, and then we put it together, and then we premiere it on Facebook and YouTube. And we really do an extensive job in trying to stay connected, you
yeah,
know, with our members and that kind of stuff, and just maintain that connection, you know.
yeah. I'm curious. I mean, obviously, I'm doing a lot virtually, so to speak,
Hmm.
and I found that I really enjoy it, and I think that it has life beyond the pandemic. My viewers will tell me otherwise if that's not true. But I attended a memorial service for a friend whose mother had passed, um, and it was one of the most beautiful services that I'd ever been in,
Yeah,
including all the in-person services. Not that I want to I still want to get back to in-person stuff,
yeah.
but I found value in the effort in connecting with people in this way that sometimes feels really personal. Did you find that in working with your church?
Um, yes, we did because our Sunday school class actually, since the pandemic, our Sunday school classes was really close and tight with one another. A lot of men that came together, and we can talk, amongst ourselves about any topic, and what stays, how we say, what happens in the room stays in the room, kind of thing. So we can really open up and connect with one another. So that was prior to COVID, and then when COVID happened, we moved it to a Zoom, and so we were able to still, connect the way we connect, and still have that, that closeness as a group of brothers,
Yeah,
a group of men that came together and could still have these conversations and discuss things that we were going through, you know, um, and be really open, and honest about it.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was a good thing for us. I mean, and I think, you know, maybe this might be something that will continue, as long as, we have this capability, this kind of access, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, you look for silver linings, right?
Oh yeah, this has been a good one,
Yeah. There's been a lot of hardship, a lot of heartache. We've lost a lot of people, um, and that's hard. But there's been some grace. There's been some moments of connection and discovery that I think can stay with us.
I uh, absolutely believe it. Our family has even, uh, we have a group chat on Facebook, and we've stayed connected. We recently suffered a loss of an uncle, and so we were able to talk amongst one another, and console one another, and just talk about what our Uncle Robert meant to us, and that kind of stuff. And so it was necessary. So yes,
Yeah,
that silver lining, that being able to connect the way we've connected.
yeah, yeah. So I want to read one more quote from you, and I think it's apropos for everything we've talked about. Although, you have thousands of quotes in the local papers, Sam. you know, I mean,
I like quotes.
yeah. Well, and no, your own too,
Yeah.
your own too. And I have to say that looking around for a photo, I ended up pulling one off your Facebook page. I hope that was okay.
It's fine. I like that one, and that one is really nice. And I'll tell you why. That one was nice because he was one of the young men that had his arm around my shoulder. He was one of the young men that I mentor in the community,
Uh,
and so I was able to attend his graduation from from college. And so these two guys, not only just my daughters, but these two guys, uh, men, young men that I've been mentoring them since they were young men, 8 and 11, and I've watched them go through, a lot in their lives and that kind of stuff, and we've been able to connect those two young men, and it's just good to have those kind of mentors in your life, because that's what I had in mind. I'm from a divorced family. My father wasn't around, and so it was my uncle, dad, George, all right, the one I shared with you
yeah,
about. But it was also, men in my church that helped to mentor us, and not only just that uncle, but my other uncles in my family that were able to mentor us as young men. And all the indicators are there. This is what should happen to you, and all this kind of stuff. But that didn't happen to us. You know,
yeah.
we didn't go down that path, and they were really good mentors. So this is my give back to those young men, because it was something that these men were instrumental in my life in helping to guide and direct me. So
Well, we're glad you're doing it. I'm going to read one more quote.
yeah,
And this was, I think this was in 2009.
hmm
Been around. We've both been around.
yeah,
And this was in the context of pulpit exchange. I don't know if that
mm,
still happens. It certainly
yes,
probably
it
hasn't
is.
happened. Does it?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yeah,
Um, I'd like, and this is you. This is you. I'd like us to be able to reconcile. I'd like us to forgive, to recognize something happened and forgive, and get back to that togetherness that God teaches.
exactly. That
That
we are all. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it, that's just your voice. I can hear you saying it,
Yeah,
but you go ahead.
that I just feel like that. We not I feel. I really believe. Being a Christian, that we are all part of the body of Christ, all of us, and that we should recognize that we shouldn't like that this didn't happen, or let's just say slavery didn't happen, and all the things that happened as a result of slavery. So when our sacred conversation, I was a part of that first group, and the pulpit exchange was one of the things that happened as a result of that. Um, and so um, the facilitator of the group um, recognized something that happened in the group. One of the group persons said, "Well, why do we have to go in the past? Why can't we just start right now?" And so someone else in the group fired back at that person, because it's still out here. And you mean this person like went off, all right.
Yeah.
But the thing that this facilitator recognized, and what I recognize, that um, in order for us to reconcile and restore, ourselves, that we have to, what I was saying earlier, that love provides us with that capacity, for forgiveness, and that in order for me to restore and for us to reconcile, there's going to be these conflicts, and so in order for us to move forward, or to reconcile and restore each other, then uh, uh, don't be afraid of the confrontation, and that I remember us talking. I can't remember how it said, but I'd like for you to say it again about the fish. You use a fish.
Well, I was quoting Kathy Wilson,
Yeah,
um, and
yeah,
she says this a lot. It's the ocean we swim in.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so when we recognize, that that is the ocean that we swim in, and you got a bunch of different fish, in the ocean,
yeah,
and one of the exercises that this facilitator did one day was write all these ethnic groups on this newsprint around the room, and then ask all of the people that participated in it to write down what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about this ethnic group.
Yeah.
And the thing that was eye raising that day was to watch, and this was not just all white people, all right, but to watch the body language, to watch the snickering, to watch the, uh, when they wrote something on a board for a black person, I observed it, and I'm like, wow, you know, uh, it was just eye opening. This is a faith-based,
Yeah.
faith-based uh, conversation about race. And you can go to any church you want to go to. I'm not trying to advocate, you gotta, whatever. It's just like going to a smorgasbord. You can pick whatever whatever you want to eat. So you can go to whatever church you want to go to. But I think that we all have to all have to be striving, to love each other without conditions. But then I also recognize that doing so, um, or putting that into practice, you know, it can be a struggle, sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, um, so that piece about reconciling, or the piece about restoration, um, that it is a struggle sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
to get to that place, where you're not all twisted up and all, mad about whatever. Um, that Because I think that that love is the thing that's going to transform us, and that's what I really believe, in my core. That's what I believe, you know, that love is the thing that's going to be able to uh, change hearts, transform minds, and transform hearts to love like God wants us to love, and me see you like God sees you, you know. And so and I like the bird in the background. That's not, makes me want
I
to.
pay them extra to hang around. a
It makes
little
me
more
want to go sit outside.
seed. Sam, it's been a pleasure. It's been a delight. I appreciate you so much for joining us, and stick around after I hit the end broadcast just
Okay.
for a minute. But folks, thank you for joining us. We ran a little long tonight, but that's okay. Um, and it's a beautiful evening.
Yes, it
So
is.
you enjoy it. Enjoy the spring week. A week from today, our guest is Tim Collins. So I feel like now I'm bringing a pro broadcaster on, and interviewing him. That could be I don't know. He could show me a thing or two. But so Tim will join us next week, same time, 7 o'clock. Stories at Sundown. And if it is nice like this, we'll be out by fireside again.
All
So,
right.
all
Thanks
right.
for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. You take care. Good night, everybody.